I think we have Rabbi Yaakov in the waiting room. Rabbi, are you with us today?
I am with you.
Hey, Rabbi, why don't you introduce yourself? Where are you from? Where are you housed? What are you working on? Give us your update.
Rabbi Yaakov Menken from the Coalition for Jewish Values. I serve as Executive Vice President. I'm based in Baltimore. I like to joke that puts me outside the Beltway and inside the blast radius.
I'm sorry about the Baltimore part. That's a favorite joke for Virginians, but
at this point, Baltimore still deserves it, but things are getting a lot better.
Good.
I'm really, you got to admit once in a while when a Democrat does a good job,
right.
You got to admit Brandon Scott's got some good things going on. Good. I don't know.
That's good. I just read the litany of what we're doing in Virginia right now. Holy Moses, can't keep it all straight. Well, give us the update. What's going on in Israel? Boy, the last week or so, there was some ups and downs like a yo-yo. What's your synopsis revealing?
Well, what we know right now about this Gaza plan is that, apparently the rumor is that Marco Rubio and Netanyahu had a tense conversation. And the reason for the tense conversation is the Americans think that, going into Gaza with a peaceful autocratic group to administer the territory for the time being, it's going to be great to have Turkey and Qatar participating in this thing. The Turks have been enemies of Israel, not the people, by the way. The people are great, but the government has been very hostile to Israel for at least the last 10 to 15 years. This guy Erdogan, he's just not a good guy. And then you got the Qataris, who actually were the homes for Hamas terrorist leaders, the guys who were the masterminds behind, this thing, what 9/11 was to Americans, 10/23 for Israelis was much worse. It was like having 35,000 casualties in terms of, per capita.
Right.
Everybody knew somebody who was killed on October 7th. And the idea that the Qataris are now going to be good peace partners, it's a big problem. The fact that Trump is moving forward and saying, okay, now we're up to stage 2, which means Hamas has to disarm, that's a great thing. We're glad to see that happen. But
right.
But the light, the side of the light and the good is not with Qatar. So there, problem.
Let me push this new, very creative financing scheme by you and see what your brain says about this. And so you got the Turks and the Qataris and those issues, and then Hamas still owes a complete laying down of arms for phase 2 to completely come in. But the one thing that caught my attention is Trump, and I don't know how much of this is completed already, but there's this buy-in to be on this peace board. And he's got some mega power coming in there, to the extent that good luck to Hamas, right? If you bring in 100 or so of these multi-billionaire guys who got expectations on property rights and peace and calm, I mean, that hasn't been stated, but I'm like, just common sense wise, I'm like, boy, that's interesting. And then I heard Rabbi Walicki the other day on Bannon, and he said, look, I don't care what goes on as long as I got security guarantees, right? I want security in Israel, period. And if we get it, I can put up with some ambiguity or some whatever, creativity along the lines of economic development in the future. And so give me your commentary. You see any hope? There is kind of a Trump genius in a way that these billionaire guys, and I don't know who they are, and I don't think I agree with a lot of them. I'm against these corporate guys, right? These corporatist monopolies and oligarchs. I don't like it. I don't think it's the American setup of Adam Smith and James Madison and whatever. But give us your view of that creative financing scheme.
Generally, I'm not a fan of pay to play.
Yeah.
The idea that you bring money to the table and then you get a voice at the table. That's not really how it works. It's really before you have your politics and before you have your finance, I know that Trump is a big financial guy. But before you have those, you have to have a moral compass. You've got to know your right from wrong. Trump has a very good score on that count. Whatever his foibles in his personal life, when it comes to policy and things, he understands your moral correctness has to come first.
Yeah.
And it's sad when you look at America today, how many people lined up in support of a terror organization. The idea it's not on the wake of October 7th, the fact that there were 30 organizations of Harvard students, 30 of them, that all said, we blame Israel for Jews being massacred.
Yeah.
There's no intersection between a member of any of those organizations and a decent human being who values American values.
Yeah.
There's none. What do you mean? There are 30 organizations of Harvard students that are all about trashing American values and taking us to anarchy.
Yeah.
How is it that people keep analyzing? How is it your LGBTQ activists are lining up with Islamist radicals who would kill gays? Gays for Gaza, the ultimate in suicidal stupidity. How does that work? And the answer is that what they share in common is that they want to tear down the values that America has always held dear.
Yeah.
And, it's wonderful. America, call yourself a Christian country. It's absolutely great. Founding fathers use the book of Deuteronomy more than any other text.
I said that earlier in the show. Did you hear me?
I did not. I apologize. I was praying to the good Lord. He and I were having a conversation. No,
well, let me, I want to pursue that. We got about a few minutes left. I hope more, but I see your Coalition for Jewish Values. I'm an academic at heart, so I like exchanges, and I hear you rabbis are good at debate too. So let me throw this one at you. I don't like the term values. I like, Alan Bloom, fine Jewish scholar out of Chicago, closing of the American mind preferred virtues to values, which are a 20th century creation. And I want to get down to it. And I want the Jewish community in Israel in on that conversation. And I want everybody, all of us, invoking the God of the Hebrew Bible and the God of the Christian Bible in our respective traditions. When we go to war, we should be invoking God by his name. That's very biblical. And yet that is not happening anywhere. And the left gets to run free with love, love, love. I don't know if you heard the show earlier, but they got love signs outside of everywhere. And this Talarico guy down in Texas and whatever, love, love, love. But that, that's not it. It's love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. And so you say to yourself, in loving myself and in loving my neighbor, would I want the rule of law or chaos? I'd want the rule of law. Would I want a free market system, or would I want a totalitarian communist system that ruins human lives? While the free market system fed 1 billion Chinese and 1 billion Indians recently. Seems to me God likes that. These are just common sense things. How are you aligning with what I'm saying here? And what can be the public stance of the Jewish community in Israel on naming the right God? So we're not serving God's a jealous God. Last time I checked, and the left is getting away with stuff here.
When you're talking about the serious Orthodox observant Jewish community, you're talking about people who are more allied with those values you represent than literally any other community. And it's interesting to note that they gave Trump the highest percentages that he got of communities anywhere, even the evangelicals, 80% for Trump? In Orthodox Jewish Lakewood, New Jersey, for example, Chris Smith's district, 95% Trump support in that community, especially in 2024. But even in 2016, it was the highest in the entire state of New Jersey. You go to those right districts in upstate New York and in Brooklyn, and you've got outstanding percentages of support. And why is that? Because it's about that values agenda.
Yeah. Well, let me push you on this. The Orthodox, I got Orthodox friends all over. I love debating my Orthodox friends on everything, and they're very sharp and very good. And the values thing, da 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 da. You heard this show today. Me and all my Baptist buddies and the Charlie Kirk guy and the Presbyterian dude, we're all calling out our own side for baloney on the faith stuff, for just making up stuff out of whole cloth and just sticking with a few values. On the Jewish side of the coin, I want the Orthodox to call out the liberals and the what's the moderates called?
The Reform and the Conservatives.
Yeah,
Conservative is not moderate. Conservative.
No, I know.
Conservative American conservatives are very confused. How is it the conservative Judaism is a bunch of lefties?
Yeah, and I don't want to get personal, but I'll just say, in my experience, I've had a few rabbis I've been aligned with who are atheists, self-proclaimed atheists, because they like Heidegger and they say the highest Moses. This is 30-year-old rabbis in the height of arrogance.
But
I'm going to be like Moses and question God.
And
really?
They're not from the Orthodox.
Yeah, no.
I'm going to put it to you straight. First of all, we had a paper just last week. We came out with a paper on rethinking gender affirmation, which tears down the leftist position, including the leftist Jewish position. This idea that there are 6 genders in the Talmud.
Right.
Please stop with the nonsense.
Good.
You're showing us your ignorance. You're showing us you don't know how to learn. Come to coalitionforjewishvalues.org. Download the paper from our letters and statements. You will see there's a whole different perspective coming out of those who actually know how to learn. The average Reform or conservative rabbi today is an utter charlatan.
Yep.
I mean to say that they can't read the books behind me any better than you can.
Right.
Those are all in Hebrew and Aramaic. I don't know if you can see well enough on the screen for those who have the video, but that is those books are all written in a language that you don't, and this one that's sitting on the little stand over here, that's mostly in Aramaic. So forget even the guys who speak modern Hebrew. It's not enough. You've got to know, and that's the crawl before you walk before you fly.
Yep.
And these guys have never gotten to that stage.
Yep.
What they teach is absolutely completely off the rails.
Yep. Let me close. I think we got about a minute left, Rabbi. Thank you for being with us. I like you got a good sense of humor. I could tell you're a fine human being. Give us a closing thought on who is God? Who is God?
God is the master creator of heaven and earth. Every second, you need to realize, in at least in our theology, and I believe Christian theology as well, God is actually recreating the world in every second. Someone just, I was just reading this in a book written by a rabbi of mine from decades ago, explaining that even the idea that Israel was given to the Jewish people, you have to think about Israel being given to you today. Every day it should feel new. Every day you should say, thank God that today, in our day, all I have to do is hop on a plane and I have the opportunity to go visit the promised land. I can go live in the promised land. It's easier than ever before. How did that happen? God did miracles for everybody.
Let me ask you, I think we got 30 seconds.
Yep.
The other traditions, there are other great religious traditions with plenty of wisdom, but now the leftists and whatever say, well, we're all headed toward the same God. We just have different software and architecture. What do you make of that in closing, and tell people how to reach you?
There's big theological differences.
Yeah.
The fact that we want the same policies is not a coincidence, though.
Yeah.
And that's all about, real tolerance is when conservative Christians and conservative Jews and conservative Muslims can all say, hey, your religion is totally different from mine in a lot of key elements, and yet we're going to sit down together because the policies that we want for America to support America and America's future, we have that same goal. And you got Hindus and Buddhists are all in that same direction, and atheists as well. So that's the direction we should be going in. Coalition for Jewish Values, CJ Values on social media. Glad to be with you.